Welcome everyone. I think I recognize most of you. My name is Shinei, for those of you that I don't know. And I lived here for about 8 years, and then I've been gone for most of the last couple years. And I just came back. My husband, Soten, and I walked from Mexico to Panama, which I can talk to you about if you are interested at lunch. But today I wanted to talk about how we can bring our practice into our daily activities, like our work and our relationships, and just, when we're walking to our car, when we're feeding our dog, or those kinds of things. I wanted to encourage the intention to bring practice into the activities actually that we're engaged in most of the time. Most of the time, we're not sitting in the meditation hall or in our meditation spot and stillness in our home, but we're doing things. That's how human beings are. Human beings are doers. So it's a good question. I find a very helpful question to consider how I'm holding my mind and my heart the majority of the time in activity. And of course, this sort of naturally happens as we practice meditation. It naturally starts to influence our daily activities and our relationships and our work. But also we can encourage that. We can really intentionally make that intention. Hakuin Zenji, who's one of the most famous of the Rinzai Zen teachers in our lineage, he said that meditation in the midst of activity is 1,000 times superior to meditation in stillness. That's an interesting question, or interesting statement. Meditation in the midst of activity is 1,000 times superior to meditation in stillness. So I want to take a little look at that statement, and then I'll offer some practices that maybe you can try or maybe you already know to encourage us in bringing this meditation into our activity. So first, what does he mean, or what do we mean when we say meditation? So if you have an answer, you can just say it. What do you mean when you say meditate? What is meditation? And then I'll repeat it on the mic so people online can hear. And people online, you can consider to yourself for a moment, maybe 1 word, 2 words, a sentence. What is meditation?
Awareness.
Awareness, yeah?
Full awareness.
Full awareness?
Calming my mind.
Calming the mind, my mind, Stability.
Don't know mind.
Don't know mind. And what about, so we could expand this to practice. What is practice? Spiritual practice. What about heart practice? What would you say that is?
Compassion and kindness.
Compassion and kindness, yeah.
Enlarging that which I care about.
Enlarging that which I care about.
Openness to what is.
Openness to what is. Acceptance.
The Eightfold Path.
The Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path consists of 3 categories, which I'll talk about in just a second. This is a good leeway into my next point, which consists of sila, which you could say is heart practice, or you could say is the Sangha refuge. expanding our heart to the Sangha, which maybe includes everyone and everything we encounter. And the Eightfold Path includes samadhi, which is meditation and mindfulness, this awareness, this presence that we usually think of when we say meditation. And it includes prajna, and prajna is wisdom. You could say that the samadhi aspect of the Eightfold Path is the Dharma refuge, the refuge of things, the refuge of presence, of the teachings, of the practice. And that prajna is the Buddha refuge, the refuge of our true nature. And the practice of prajna is inquiry, is looking into the nature of reality. So when we say bringing meditation into our activities or bringing practice into our activities, we can look at any one of these three aspects and see how we might do that, bring inquiry, bring presence, or bring love into our activities. So even like how I pick up this cup, you know, how this cup is part of my Sangha. How do I care for it? And how does it care for me? A quote that I found online that I really liked for meditation was the inner state of deeply collected awareness. Deeply collected awareness. One thing that Rupert Spira says, is a teacher that I like, is that we usually think that we're the person and we do the activity of meditation or of bringing meditation into our life. But actually, more accurately, we're the meditation and the person is the activity that we do. So it's, maybe you could say meditation is actually just tapping into what we fundamentally are. This open, accepting, loving, true, honest presence. So then the next part of this statement, Hakuin's statement, meditation in the midst of activity is 1,000 times superior to meditation and stillness. Why is it superior? I mean, I think like meditation and stillness is pretty fantastic, right? And it really has a lot of benefits, and in the moment that we're doing it, and also maybe that's part of it, how it influences our activities, right? So meditation in stillness is very limited. It's only particular conditions, the body's still or quiet. But when we can bring that mind of presence or of love or of truth into whatever else, whatever we might be doing, like our capacity expands. We then are not just limited to feeling, as Chosen said, the peace in the room when we're sitting still. But right now, as we're listening, can we feel that peace in the room? As we're thinking, can we feel that peace in the room at the same time? So any other ideas about why it might be superior? Why would he say, I mean, we don't have to say he's right, but why would he say that meditation in activity is 1,000 times superior to meditation in stillness? Yeah.
Keeping stillness within the activity is much more difficult than keeping stillness in the
Right, right. It's superior because it takes like more somehow, more effort or more presence or more insight. Yeah.
opportunity to cultivate unshakable equanimity.
Uh-huh. She said meditation in activity would be a way to cultivate unshakable equanimity. Right. So it's not limited to these particular conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think the impact can be greater and more superior.
Absolutely. So she said the impact can be greater and more superior. So I have written here, we can help living beings in activity. Not to say we don't help living beings when we're sitting still. You know, maybe actually the energy of one person at peace really, sitting still really does affect the whole interconnected field of beings. I believe that. And yet we have this possibility of impacting others in the world. Yeah.
I think it can also curb some of the spiraling at the source of when something upsetting or difficult is happening, to be present with that there, rather than having to untangle it later.
Okay, so she said it can curb some of the spiraling at the source. So if something difficult happens, we are like present with it when it happens, processing it, and we don't have to untangle it so much later. Right? A lot of what we're doing when we sit down in stillness is we're like untangling all that stuff that we missed when we were not present when it happened, right? We're processing it. But there's this possibility of really meeting it in that moment and accepting it and processing it as it's happened. Maybe that as we practice, our capacity for that grows. And then maybe we can just let go of it and not, when we get to the cushion, we're clearer in a sense, or cleaner. Great. That's more than I thought of. Okay. So I'd like to, as I said, talk about how we can bring spiritual practice or meditation, these three parts of practice, into our activity, just like actual practical ways that I do that and that we can do that. So sila, the practice of love, the refuge of sangha, this connecting with the heart, this extending kindness in our work, in how we handle objects, in how we relate to our own body, our own mind. These four immeasurables that somebody mentioned, two of them, compassion and kindness. We also have joy and equanimity. So touching into these and letting them influence our speech, the precepts fit in here, how we're living. One part of sila is our livelihood. What do we do for our work? And is it in line with our deepest understanding and our truest self? The Buddha gave like 5 jobs that you shouldn't do. He gave to lay people. Of course, the monks in the Buddha's time didn't work in the same way. Their work was the Dharma and meditation. But the 5 things are not to work in things that poison yourself or other living beings, in jobs that abuse sexuality, in jobs that are involved in the manufacturing of weapons or the selling of weapons. So you can think of these specifically, literally, or also you can think of them more metaphorically, or not metaphorically, but more subtly. Is the job that we're doing subtly harming ourselves or others? The other one is meat production and butchering. And the final one was what? I can't remember. Do you know? Maybe I'll think of it. But it's another very obvious one. In activities that harm ourselves and other living beings. So this is one way that we can practice in our activities, is choosing activities that are beneficial, that are beautiful, that are healthy for us and healthy for other beings. Specific practices we can do sort of internally. One is one I received from Chosen Roshi is imagining a heart beam in the center of your heart that connects you to other hearts. And you can do that sort of literally imagining a light beam. You can also just do it energetically, just feeling this web of connection that we are. You know, and just like you can feel that, and then as you're talking to somebody or as you're sitting with somebody, just resting back into that sense of connected, of oneness. And just see how that affects your speech and your actions. You can also do that with objects. I'll grab my cup again. You know, and how do we handle objects? And you can take a particular moment that happens in your life every day, like maybe you have your morning coffee, or maybe when you put on your clothes, or when you open your computer, let's say. So this is a way that you can really specifically identify a moment. So maybe when you drink your tea, and you can bring a sense of gentleness, of appreciation, of care, of presence, of loving kindness. I have so many on my list, but let me hear from you guys. Give me a couple practices, compassion or kindness or heart practices that you do.
I sit with my cat on my lap.
Yeah?
And
She
that
sits
makes
with her
me
cap on her
sit
lap.
and not do anything.
Ah.
It's like my cat is the teacher.
Yeah, yeah. Animals are amazing for that, you know, and for extending that heart of connection and kindness, right? Yeah. Yes, Tom.
I use like gestures, and one is kissing. So
Oh.
I like kiss my bed sheets and my
Aw.
pillow before I go to bed.
So he says he kisses his bed sheets and his pillow before he goes to bed.
Or the sun ray when I hang it up.
Aww.
Or trees.
Trees or clothing. Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. Another one is just touch, how you touch yourself, right? And your things. I was kind of saying that with the cup, but another one in this line of gestures. Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Food.
Food. Kiss the food before you eat it. Right? Like you would a child or an animal, right? They bring out this aspect of us. Yeah. Another one is bringing a smile to the face. This is another gesture. So just for a moment, take on the posture of frowning. So frown your face, hunch your posture, and maybe say the word no. No. Okay, then we'll take on the posture of smiling. So it can be a subtle smile. And we'll take on the posture of yes. So open the chest, elongate the spine, take a deep breath and say, yes, yes. So, right? That makes a difference. And this gets us into the second one, which is samadhi. And posture is related a lot. The body is related to samadhi. So samadhi is concentration, is meditation, is mindfulness, presence, the Dharma refuge. It could also be the Buddha refuge. These are all sort of interrelated, right? Maybe we can't even have one without the other. So another way we can bring practice into our day-to-day activities is through samadhi, through presence. For me, posture is a huge one. So if I align the spine, breathe, ground into the earth, become aware of my hands, when I'm standing, my feet, when I'm sitting, the contact. And a practice can be just taking 3 full mindful breaths. So let's just do that right now. Breathing all the way in, all the way out. Simple presence. Hear the bird. And then when we take that pause, those 3 breaths, then we re-engage, re-enter activity, and see if we can just stay in that samadhi, in that presence, maybe for a few moments. Whatever we're doing, we're cooking, we're walking from one place to another. That's another great spot to add these intentions of, okay, I'm going to just practice samadhi when I'm walking from my door to my car. Or I'm just going to practice samadhi when I turn off my car. 3 breaths. So we can make these little spaces, these little tasks, where we bring in these practices intentionally and start to incorporate them into our day, into our life. Opening to the 5 senses. Soten, when I was talking to him about what I was going to talk about today, he said it's good to have a meditative practice that's not meditation. So that's interesting, like an art practice or a music practice or a body practice, that we sort of work in transferring the quality of full attention, full presence into an activity. So you can think about that if you have one already, if you have one that maybe you're not doing that you want to bring back in, or if you want to choose a meditative practice where what you're doing is basically the same thing you're doing when you sit on the cushion. However, it's not stillness, there's some movement in it. And then the third area, or it's sometimes called training, part of our practice is prajna, which is wisdom, which is the Buddha refuge. So connecting with our inner Buddha. Hakuin Zenji says, I'll read this in the Song of Zazen, which we recite here during sessions. Session is our week-long retreat, which you're all invited to sign up for if you haven't. First you do a weekend retreat, and then you can decide if you want to do the week-long. We do it every month. It's a very, very wonderful practice. So he says, all beings, this is a different translation from the one in our chant book, all beings are primarily Buddhas. It is simply ignorance about one's own nature that keeps us blind to our inherent enlightenment. So Buddha is one who is awake, awakening being. All beings are already primarily Buddhas. It is simply ignorance about one's own nature that keeps us blind to our inherent enlightenment. Not knowing how close the truth is, not knowing how close the truth is to them, beings seek for it afar. What a pity. We're always doing that, right? We're always looking for our happiness in things, and we're trying to figure it out and get to it, but actually, how close? They are like those who, being in the midst of water, cry out for water, feeling thirst. They are like the son of a rich man who, wandering away from his father, goes astray amongst the poor. So remembering the Buddha water that we are, whatever sense of our inherent enlightenment that we have. Whatever sense of this fundamental peace, whatever opening, big or small, we can sense into of this freedom, this great freedom, just below, within our thoughts, our sensations, our perceptions. To take a moment to remember our Buddha self. I'm going to read a little poem from this. I just recently started leading a women's practice group, and we've been reading some poems from this book. The first, Free Women, inspired by some poems from some early Buddhist nuns who practiced with the Buddha. This is called Self-Reliant. Dhira is the name of the woman. It means self-reliant. Look closely, my heart. See how all things arise and pass away. Even that which is turning the shapes on this page into the sounds and thoughts you are right now, silently speaking to yourself. When you no longer need to read the signs to find your way, you'll know for yourself that books and maps can only get you so far. There is a direct path. So the direct looking into the nature of who we are, of what this is. In my day-to-day life, I like to ask myself the question, what is this? Wait a minute, so we're rushing around, we're doing things, we're thinking I do this and that, and this is sort of my mode, maybe your mode is different, but I think it's somewhat common. Or we're thinking of what happened yesterday, or whatever, often we're divided, right? We're thinking of something else. So to stop and just inquire into, what is this? Whoa. Do I really know what's going on here? And this quality of everything changing, right? There's the three marks we have in Buddhism, which are the three marks of reality. It's impermanent, it's always changing. It's there's no inherent self, no separate self. So that's really interesting to look into. Who is these thoughts referring to? Who is the story referring to? And suffering, dukkha, this sense of friction that we often feel. This sense of anxiety, or that something's not quite right. And then the possibility of that dukkha falling away or being seen through. The possibility of liberation in this moment. So questions are a really good way to find these questions. Who is it that's thinking? What is going on here? What is this suffering? And have this practice of inquiry start to become a common mode. Teach ourselves to be always questioning and looking. One question always inspired me, that from a woman that lived at ZCLA Chosen, has shared this story multiple times, is this woman who had this question, what is underneath Or what is behind? She knows like something, there's something more to this life than what meets the surface of the eye. Okay. So any ways that you practice samadhi or inquiry in your daily life that come to mind? One common one is that we do here is called the work, and it's a series of questions. And this is about our thoughts. So often with thoughts, we just take them as truth. We just think something, and they're like, "Yep, that's right," and we just go with it, right? She doesn't like me. That's right. That's how it is. I'm not talking to her. You know, I need to go to the store. Okay, I need to go to the store. All right. No, how am I gonna fit this into my day? You know, wait, is that really true? You know, so to stop and question our thoughts and to think of them more as proposals, more as possibilities, as hypotheses of what might be going on, and it's actually more what they are. Our thoughts are just trying to make sense of this thing that actually no thought could ever encompass. So to mindfully take on that practice of not believing every thought, substituting thoughts, you know, and this can go back into sila practice. So much of us spend so much of our life caught in negative thoughts about ourselves, about other people, about what's wrong. And then there's this possibility of changing that pattern. To substitute gratitude, appreciation. We can always find something that we can be grateful for. Like right now, what's something you can be grateful for? You can say it.
You.
Me. Sangha. Yeah.
It's warm.
It's warm. Yeah. It's not warm out there.
One of my knees doesn't hurt.
One of my knees doesn't hurt. Exactly, right? We could focus on the one that hurts, or we can focus on the one that doesn't hurt. Right? We really have that choice. And there, you know, one practice I love is the practice of finding something pleasurable in the present moment. And there's also always something pleasurable. So name something pleasurable.
Breathing.
Breathing.
The smell of incense.
The smell of incense.
Seeing the bamboo.
Seeing the bamboo.
Friends.
Friends. Usually there's some part of the body that feels good. Can you name a part of the body that feels good?
My face.
Face, yeah. I find my lips often feel good.
The warmth of my hands.
Warmth of hands. Okay, explore that one. So that's samadhi practice, right? Too. We can become so aware. Chosen leads us, if you come into residency here, you'll experience this, and everyone's invited to apply for residency if you have that interest. Many people came to Sunday, many residents come to Sunday. Actually, our possible next abbot in line, he came first, Sunday program. That was his first thing, and now he's coming to live his whole life here, maybe. So everyone's invited for that. And if you do, Chosen often leads us in the 4 foundation of mindfulness every morning, or a lot of mornings. And one of them is the body, exploring. She leads us through a body scan, exploring, relaxing the different parts of the body. And as with every practice, the more we do it, the more subtle our attention becomes. And the more we can find these places of pleasure in the body. Okay, let's see. Finally, I just wanted to talk about a little bit of obstacles, some obstacles that we come up against, that I come up against, and I think are somewhat universal. I mean, I think they're very universal because I realized I started listing obstacles and they fit into what the Buddha describes as the 5 hindrances, which are the hindrances he describes in meditation practice. They're desire for something else, not this, something else, ill will or aversion, worry or restlessness, not being able to settle, dullness, sloth and torpor, and skeptical doubt. Doubting ourselves, doubting the practice. So I put these in different words. This desire I named as becoming. So I find in my activity, I often am in this state of like becoming the next thing. I have in mind the next thing when I'm going to get to the end of this. So this is really an invitation to watch closely what's happening in the mind when we're in activity. So what is this sense that I need to get this done, or I need to get on to the next thing? And then how does that feel in the body? And what is the belief under there? Like, if I get this done, then I'll be okay, or then I'll be happy. The second is critic, negativity, ill will. So I often find when I'm in activity, there'll be a subtle critical voice that's saying, well, you just messed up. You know, when I sew a lot, so, you know, like, that should have taken you less time. Oh, you should remember to slow down at the back stitch because the thread always comes out at the back stitch, or, you know, whatever it is. But there's this subtle voice that's just commenting negatively. So watching, becoming mindful of that. And again, each of these obstacles is an invitation to these 3 practices, bringing love and acceptance around that sense of I'm bad or others are bad. Bringing samadhi, attention, into where is that in the body? What does it feel like? And bringing inquiry. What is the belief under there? Who is that thought referring to? Do I have to believe that? What is the turnaround? In Byron Katie's method, she has the turnarounds. You know, I made a mistake. I'm doing good. I did something right. And one more, I won't name all of them that I have, but one more I'll name is I should be doing something else. I find this a lot when I'm going about my day. I should be doing something else, or I should be doing something else and this, like at the same time. You know, like, oh, I should be doing yoga, but I should be writing this talk, and I should be cooking my meal, and I should be playing with my dog, and, you know, and so what is that doubt? What is that that sort of avoiding directly committing ourselves to what we're doing? And this idea, these expectations that we have, do we have to have those? What if all we had to do was what was happening? What if all we had to do was what was happening? So I'll just see if there's any comments that are bubbling up. We have one more minute. Or any obstacles you encounter, or any objections. Yeah.
How, Shinei, how does that relate to flow how's that sense
Yeah.
of meditation when you're doing something?
Yeah.
Is it really,
What would you say?
I would imagine it's kind of similar.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. Yeah. Do you want to say something about that athlete, Soten?
I connected with all the words, but I don't know that I really got what the question was.
When you're doing something and you're in the meditative state in your activity, is it similar to like an athlete really in the state of flow when they're performing and they're just you're not separate from your body, you're just the action is part of your physical experience and you're it, you know, you are
Yeah.
the action and you are the being that's doing the action, and I was just wondering if that's kind of a similar, I mean,
Yes,
I'm trying
yes.
to see if there
Let
were-
me repeat that for the online people, that when we're doing, when we're fully embodied in action and fully present in that samadhi of doing something, is that the same as the flow state for an athlete? And when there's, you know, in a way, this is union, right? Samadhi is union, is uniting the doer and what's being done. So is that the same? And I asked Soten to expound on that since he does a lot of physical activity. Do you feel it's the same when you're working and you're wholeheartedly doing something as when you enter your flow state?
Well, it is a very beautiful description that you gave, and the only response that I have is, yeah, there's a similar experience of taking any activity really down to one point that is the doing.
You can take any activity down to one point, that is the doing.
Yes, but also everything is different.
But also each thing is different, everything is different.
Some things are very physical, direct, and clear. Some things are very creative and spontaneous.
Some things are physical, direct, and clear, like if you're walking somewhere, or if you're hammering, or if you're...
Some things are very strenuous.
And some things are strenuous, some
and
things are creative.
Very relaxing. So
Some things are very relaxing.
to take all the qualities of one activity and say these qualities should then be present in every activity, I don't think that's true.
So to take all the qualities of one activity and say that they all should be present in another activity, and he wouldn't say that was true.
But I do think it's the case that whenever we really establish ourselves as completely doing anything, it does give us clues about how we might be able to completely do anything.
Yeah, so when we completely enter samadhi, you could say, or completely do one thing, and we know how to enter this present state in that, then it gives us clues about how we might transfer that to other activities. So that's how we can maybe teach ourselves, is when we find these are certain activities where we're really present in, then, okay, what qualities are present? What is this? And then you can, and then maybe it's possible. So if it's in our sitting practice, then when we get up for kinhin, how can we keep those qualities, whatever those qualities of presence are, or of love are, or of inquiry are? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'll leave you with this contemplation. It's a rich contemplation and an invitation to bring your practice into your daily activities and to see what you just discover and to explore the obstacles therein. And to explore what keeps us from really embodying fully our moment-to-moment life. And do we want to do that? And if we want to do that, how? How can we do that? One practical thing is, if you have an intention in a specific activity, is find a stone and have that be your intention and place it somewhere where you'll be able to pick it up and touch it. So if you have the intention to bring presence into when you walk to the car, then put the stone right by your keys. You know, if you have the intention to be loving when you're with your coworkers, then put the stone in your office, you know. So this will help then give you a reminder, because one of the hardest things is remembering. Okay, thank you very much.